Welcome all. So, today we are going to a new area. So, before going to that area, I want all of you to do an activity. Are you ready? Okay. So, all of you take a deep breath. Hold on for some time and relax. Again, take a deep breath. Hold on and relax. You do this activity for 3 to 4 times. So children, what changes have occurred in your body? Did you feel that your energy level increased when you take a deep breath? Similarly, have you all run in a sports day, in the running race? So immediately after finishing the running race, you all have taken a deep breath, isn't it? Why is it so? It is because you need so much energy. Okay, that is, energy requirement will be very high after a heavy running race. Okay, so we have to know that we all need energy to do work. This energy is derived from the various food, that is through the nutrients. From various food you know that nutrients are absorbed. So from this nutrients, the energy level, the energy is getting to our body. Similarly, oxygen also has to be reached to the cells. So, in today's class, we will be dealing with a chapter where you have to know about your breathing process and how this oxygen is getting into the cells. So, the chapter is Breathing for Energy. This is the 4th chapter in your textbook. It is Breathing for Energy. Okay, children? We will study all the process in very detail. So children, do you know an organ system in our body which actually helps us in breathing? Do you know which organ system is it? Exactly, it is a respiratory system. Very good. So, do you know which all organs are present in this respiratory system? Can you name any one organ? Exactly, it is correct. You know that lungs forms a major organ of the respiratory system. So, apart from lungs, there are so many organs in the respiratory system. Children, in your textbook, there is an illustration in 4.1 which gives you, there is a parts of respiratory system and its function. There is an empty box, you have to complete it. So, teacher will be teaching you about each part and its function. After the completion of classes, you have to note down in your science diary and you have to fill that box. Are you ready? So, in this class, we will be studying about the parts and functions of the respiratory system. Okay? Now, let us start. Okay. Now, let us discuss about the parts of the respiratory system along with its function. Let us start. So, the first part of the respiratory system is a nostril. Okay, nostril is respiratory system first part. So, let us see. This is a nostril. See children, we all know that there are certain hair-like structures inside the nose. Like immediately inside the nose, you can see the nose hole, you can see the hair-like structures. അതെന്തിനാണ്? അറ്റ്മോസ്ഫിയറിക് എയറിലുള്ള ഒരുപാട് ഡസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ടിക്കിൾസ് ഉള്ളിലേക്ക് കടക്കുന്നതിനെ പ്രിവെന്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് നമ്മളുടെ നോസിൽ എന്തുള്ളത്? നോസ്ട്രിൽസ് ഉള്ളത്. So this nostrils is actually an opening which allows the entry as well as the exit of air. Okay, എയറിന്റെ എൻട്രിയും എക്സിറ്റിനെയും അലൗ ചെയ്യാനാണ് നോസ്ട്രിൽസ് ഉള്ളത്. സിമിലർലി നോസ്ട്രിൽസിൽ എന്താണ്? ഒരു ഫിൽട്രേഷൻ പ്രോസസ്, അതായത് പുറത്തുള്ള ഡസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ടിക്കിൾസിനെയൊക്കെ, ഒരുപാട് ഡസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ടിക്കിൾസിനെയൊക്കെ തന്നെ ഉള്ളിലേക്ക് കടക്കുന്നത് പ്രിവെന്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് നോസ്ട്രിൽസ് ഉള്ളത്. ക്ലിയർ? ദിസ് ഇസ് ദ ഫസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദ റെസ്പിറേറ്ററി സിസ്റ്റം. Moving on to the second part of the respiratory system is nasal cavity. What it is? Nasal cavity. See here you can see the nasal cavity. Immediately after the nostril, the nasal cavity comes. The nasal cavity is a connection between the nostril and the pharynx. ഫാരിങ്സിന്റെയും നോസ്ട്രിലിന്റെയും ഇടയിൽ കാണുന്ന ഒരു കണക്ഷൻ ആയിട്ടാണ് എന്ത് പറയുന്നത്? നേസൽ കാവിറ്റി പറയുന്നത്. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മുടെ നോസിലൊക്കെ പെട്ടെന്നൊരു ക്ഷതം നമുക്ക് അനുഭവപ്പെടുകയെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഇമ്മീഡിയറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് ബ്ലഡ് വരും അല്ലെ. മൂക്ക് എവിടെയെങ്കിലും പോയി ഇടിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അപ്പൊ തന്നെ ബ്ലഡ് നമുക്ക് വരും. എന്തുകൊണ്ടാന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാല് this nasal cavity is having so many blood capillaries. Okay, so whenever you get hurted, you know that so many blood actually comes out of the nose. This is because of the presence of so many blood capillaries in the nasal cavity. Clear? So the first part is nostril, the second part is the nasal cavity. Moving on to the third part is the trachea. You are very familiar with this because trachea is otherwise known as windpipe. What it is called? Windpipe. See children, while studying the digestive system, we studied that esophagus is also known as the food pipe, isn't it? For the passage of the food. So here in the respiratory system, it is trachea or the windpipe which actually facilitates or it allows the passage of the air. Okay? The important thing is that this trachea is having C-shaped cartilaginous rings. It is having C-shaped cartilaginous rings and it is a very important peculiarity of trachea. Can you see here like the ring-like structure? This is a cartilaginous rings present in the trachea. Okay? Immediately after the trachea, you can see here two divisions. Can you see it? Like a fork shape. That is, this is trachea. Immediately after the trachea, you can see here two divisions. This is known as bronchus. Okay, this is known as bronchus. So the trachea divides into two. It is also having the cartilagineous. So teacher have actually made a model of the respiratory system. Here I will show you that. That is, this is a trachea you can see, and in this trachea is, after this trachea there is an immediate division is there. Okay, this is also, here you can see the green color, this is a cartilaginous ring. So immediately after the trachea there is a division into two, that is known as a bronchus. So this bronchus actually enters into the lungs. See here this pink structure is lungs. So this bronchus along with this cartilaginous rings, it is entering into the lungs. Okay. After that, this bronchus ends in bronchioles. What is this called? Bronchioles. See here you can see this bronchus actually it enters into the lungs and the terminal part of this bronchus is known as bronchioles. You can see further division is there. Children, listen carefully. The trachea is having the cartilaginous rings. Okay. Immediately after where this trachea finishes, there is a two division. It is also having cartilaginous rings. Okay, this portion I showed you. So this is trachea, this is bronchus, and this bronchus again terminates in bronchioles. Bronchioles is not having the cartilaginous rings. Clear? Trachea and bronchus is having the cartilaginous rings, but this bronchioles does not have the cartilaginous rings. Okay?
The next part immediately after the bronchioles is alveoli. That is, the bronchioles ends in alveoli. You can see this alveoli as bunches of grapes. അല്ലേ, ഒരു മുന്തിരിക്കൊല പോലെയാണ് നമുക്ക് ഈ ആൽവിയോലി കാണാനായിട്ട് പറ്റുന്നത്. ദേ ആർ വെരി എലാസ്റ്റിക് ഇൻ നേച്ചർ. അവർക്ക് ഒരുപാട്, നമുക്ക് ആ പിക്ചർ കണ്ടാൽ മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പറ്റും, ഒരുപാട് ബ്ലഡ് കാപ്പിലറീസ് ഉണ്ട്, ഇലാസ്റ്റിക് ആണ്. പിന്നീട് ദ ഗ്യാഷ്യസ് എക്സ്ചേഞ്ച്, അതായത് ദ എക്സ്ചേഞ്ച് ഓഫ് ഗ്യാസസ് ടേക്സ് പ്ലേസ് ഇൻ ദിസ് ആൽവിയോലൈ. അടുത്തൊരു ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് പാർട്ടാണ്, ദ നെക്സ്റ്റ് പാർട്ട് ഇസ് ഡയഫ്രം. You can see here in this picture, the upper part is called the thoracic cavity and the lower part is called the abdominal cavity. So in between the thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavity is the diaphragm, and diaphragm plays a very important role in the respiratory system.
Children, the lungs are protected by a double layered membrane. Can you see here this yellow color I have marked in the lungs? That is outside the lungs you can see a yellow color marking. It is known as pleura. 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 It is a double-layered membrane which protects the lens. So here, this pink color, dark pink color is pleura. This light rose is lens. So here I have marked this pleura. It is a double membrane layer which actually protects the lens and it provides the friction between the lens and the walls of the thoracic cavity. What is the function of pleura? Pleura provide friction for the lens and also between the walls of the thoracic cavity. Okay? Okay, children. So, we will see a video, an animated video on the respiratory system. So, you will become more clear about the concepts.
By doing some deep breathing. So take a deep breath in, hold and breathe out. Repeat again. Aren't you feeling fresh and energetic? But tell me, where does the air actually go when we breathe? You might say it goes to our lungs. Well, yes, it is correct. The air passes through the respiratory tract and then enters the lungs. So, let's explore the features and the parts of the human respiratory system. The air enters the human body through nostrils, which then passes through the nasal cavity. The air is filtered by specialized hair-like structure in the nasal cavity called cilia. The cells of the nasal cavity secrete mucus, which helps to trap the dust particles and blocks it from moving ahead. The nasal cavity also provides warmth and adds moisture to the air. The nasal cavity has specialized sensory cells that are sensitive to smell and odor. And yes, that is the reason why our nose is a sense organ. The nasal cavity opens into a much wider cavity called the pharynx. The pharynx is a common passage for air and food. It is easily visible when you open your mouth wide. Yes, the region behind our tongue. Has this ever occurred to you that while having food you cough because the food accidentally entered the other pipe? Well, yes, this never happens otherwise. This is because the pharynx has a cartilaginous flap-like structure called epiglottis. This epiglottis closes the windpipe when we swallow the food. It prevents the entry of the food in the windpipe. So, while swallowing, if the epiglottis is partially closed, we cough. Followed by pharynx is a region called larynx, the voice box. The larynx in males is often seen protruding out. This is called the Adam's apple. From here, the air passes through a 4-inch long tube-like structure called trachea. The trachea is often referred to as the windpipe. If you carefully observe the structure, there are many C-shaped cartilaginous rings present on the trachea. What do you think is the function of these rings? These rings prevent the windpipe from collapsing. Close to the lungs, the trachea or the windpipe divides into 2 tubes called the bronchi. The single tube is called bronchus. Each of these tubes enters the respective lungs. On entering the lungs, each bronchus and much finer bronchiole. By repeated branching, the bronchioles ultimately enter in a cluster of tiny air sac-like structures called the alveoli. They are often referred to as the air sacs. The alveoli are surrounded with blood vessels. They are the actual site for gaseous exchange.
Hope that the video is very clear for you. So now let us move on. Children, I hope that you are clear with the parts and the functions of the respiratory system. In table 4.1 in your textbook, a table is given where you have to mark the parts. You have to write down the parts of the respiratory system along with the function. After hearing this class, you have to note down in your notebook, and I'll be discussing the answers. Okay, so you have to check with that.
Okay, now let us discuss about the parts of the respiratory system along with its peculiarity and function. First part is nostril. Nostril is an opening through which air passes in and out of the body. പിന്നെ അവിടെ ഒരു ഫിൽട്രേഷൻ പ്രോസസ്സ് നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. കാരണം പുറത്തുനിന്നുള്ള ഡസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ടിക്കിൾസ് ഒക്കെ തന്നെ ഉള്ളിലേക്ക് കടക്കുന്നത് പ്രിവെൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനാണ് നമുക്ക് നോസ്ട്രിൽസ് ഉള്ളത്. നെക്സ്റ്റ് ഇസ് നേസൽ ക്യാവിറ്റി, ദ ക്യാവിറ്റി വിച്ച് കണക്ട്സ് ദ നോസ്ട്രിൽസ് വിത്ത് ദ ഫാരിങ്സ്. നോസ്ട്രിൽസും ഫാരിങ്സും ആയിട്ട് കണക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ക്യാവിറ്റിയാണ് നേസൽ ക്യാവിറ്റി. മൂന്നാമത്തെ പാർട്ടാണ് ട്രക്കിയ ഓർ വിൻ പൈപ്പ്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എ ലോങ് ട്യൂബ് സ്ട്രെങ്തൻഡ് ബൈ C-shaped cartilaginous rings. C-shaped ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരുപാട് കാർട്ടിലേജിനസ് റിങ്സ് നമുക്ക് കാണാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും ട്രക്കിയ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വിൻ പൈപ്പിൽ. അതായത് എയർ നോസ്ട്രിലൂടെ വന്ന് നേസൽ ക്യാവിറ്റി എത്തി പിന്നീട് പോകുന്നത് ട്രക്കിയിലോട്ടാണ്. നെക്സ്റ്റ് പാർട്ട് ഇസ് ബ്രോങ്കസ്. ബ്രോങ്കസ് ഇസ് എ ബ്രാഞ്ചസ് ഓഫ് ട്രക്കിയ വിച്ച് എൻറ്റർ ദ ലങ്സ്. അപ്പോൾ ട്രക്കിയ പിന്നീട് 2 ഡിവിഷനായിട്ട് തിരിയുന്നു. അതിലും കാർട്ടിലേജിനസ് റിങ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. ബ്രാഞ്ചസ് ഓഫ് ട്രക്കിയ ഇറ്റ് ആക്ച്വലി എൻറ്റർ ഇൻ ടു ദ ലങ്സ്, ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് ബ്രോങ്കസ്. Next is bronchiole. These are the terminal branches of bronchi that open into the alveoli. Next is alveoli. They are the delicate air sacs. So, they are elastic in nature. They are seen at the tip of bronchioles. Bronchiolesന്റെ അറ്റത്തായിട്ടാണ് നമുക്ക് alveoli കാണാൻ പറ്റുന്നത്. ഏകദേശം 300 million alveoli are seen in the human respiratory system.
Okay children, now we will discuss about the pathway of the atmospheric air from the nostrils to the alveoli. Okay, so it is called the respiratory tract. Respiratory tract means it is the pathway of the air from the nostrils, beginning from the starting of the respiratory system is the nostrils, isn't it? So from the nostrils to the alveoli, how does the pathway takes place? So teacher will explain it through a chart. Have a look at the chart. This is the pathway of air from the nostrils to the alveoli. You studied about the parts of the respiratory system. So according to that order, you know that the air actually passes. Okay, air reaches the nose. So from the nostrils, the very first part of the respiratory system, the air moves to the nasal cavity, followed by the trachea. The air reaches the bronchus. From the bronchus, the air goes to the bronchiole. And from the bronchiole, the alveoli. We discussed that in the alveoli, the exchange of gases takes place. Isn't it? So, the pathway of air from nostrils to alveoli takes place in this order. From nostrils to nasal cavity, to trachea, then to bronchus, to bronchiole, and then to alveoli. Children, please note down in your notebook because there is an incomplete table given in your textbook. So you all just note down this table, this flow chart in your notebook. So we are ending the first class today. We will see in the next class. Thank you children.